Hello and welcome to episode 445 of the Awesome Comics Podcast, the place where the small press makes one hell of a big noise. My name is Vince Hunt, and joining me as always is the creator of the comic series Vanguard, Dan Butcher.
Hello.
And he's as spicy as a pot noodle. It's Tony Esmond.
Pot noodle spicy?
You can get a spicy pot
You
noodle.
can get a spicy one.
Can you?
Yeah.
They're not up to our... Like, do you remember that time we had a
God.
curry and I asked for a vindaloo, make it extra hot, and the bloke just laughed at me? Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
and then you said, please don't hurt me or something like that.
I said, you're just going to pull my pants down now, aren't you?
Yeah.
And he laughed. Yeah.
I think you threw out the meal, you were dabbing at your forehead with a napkin.
Just dabbing at my arse later.
Welcome to the show, everyone. It's going to be an interesting one this week. The energy in this room, and yes, we're all in the same room, is quite... I don't know. There's an energy, isn't there?
We were lively, weren't we? We were lively for...
I don't know whether we've had a long weekend. Well, I mean, it's just been a long weekend. It's the first week of January. You know, we've made it through the first week. And
Happy New Year, guys, by the way.
Happy New Year. Yeah.
Well, we said it last week because last week...
I know, but we were recording before it, weren't we?
Don't. You would never be in the magic circle, would you?
Reveal the secrets.
I've been in a magic circle, my friends. Let me tell you that now.
You'd be that geezer with a weird mask on, revealing all the tricks.
I've been in a circle that looks something like Eyes Wide Shut. Is it a bit like that with masks on? Is that magic?
God. Tell you what's magic if I make it through this show without putting my face in my palm.
And you haven't made it.
No. But welcome to the second show of 2024. This week we've got a couple of topics. We had to do a bit of rescheduling just beforehand. A couple of things that come up. We've had to reschedule. We've all had long weeks. I've got a new... If I sound a little bit different this week, I don't know how it's going to sound actually.
Splashed down you, and a fancy arm. I
got a fancy arm for my mic, so
nice one.
I look like a radio DJ. But it means I'm not leaning over like Gollum. So,
that's great.
Hopefully it sounds
very
right.
professional.
Relax.
Yeah.
That time we started being professional.
So when I want to do that ASMR later in the show, it'll be easier.
I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Ass to mouth? I don't know.
Oh, okay. I know what that means.
Ass to mouth ratio, isn't it?
Never go ass to mouth. Never go ass to mouth.
You know my unstoppable quench for knowledge. I'm going to have to find that out.
Oh, God. So Dan, once again, ruins his browser history while we ruin or make the beginning of your week or whenever you listen to this. So, but trust me, there's plenty of great comic books to check out this week. We've been, as always, there's some great books that we've got to talk about later, haven't we? Dan's got
autonomous sensory meridian response. There you go.
Oh, nice. I've got a very sort of spiritual book to talk about as well, haven't I?
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah. It was something that I don't want to spoil anything, listeners, but it changed Tony on a spiritual and just legitimately.
Yeah. It did change physically due to it.
Yeah. So,
I think it's got to that time of the year where everyone, we're about to walk into like a dark winter, aren't we? Mm. We haven't got Christmas to look forward to anything. I think everyone needs a sort of spiritual lift.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's
why I chose that book to talk about.
Yeah.
To bring us all up.
And of course,
brought me up, Dan.
Spiritualism is exactly why people come to this show. And
segue on the way.
There's not a segue actually.
Okay.
I have no segues this week.
You don't write them down though. They just come naturally to you.
They do actually just like happen naturally. Unless I think I'm really intelligent and planned, but I never plan. But what I do plan to do is have a great couple of hours of comics chats.
Yeah.
With my buddies.
Already had half an hour, haven't we?
I know. Yeah, where we've gotten all the poison out of the system, so by the time we hit record, we're in a really good mood.
Anthony was ranting, and at one point you went, and Dan was a bit, and you went, "Have you got it out of your system?" We went, "Yep, all good to go now."
It got to a point where Dan was just sat there and just shaking his head on the camera, like, no. But we're in fine spirits this week, and
we're in fine fettle.
Fine fettle indeed. And we're going to be talking, we've got a bit of comic store or comic shop. Actually, let's start with that.
Okay.
Store or shop? What do you say?
Shop.
I say shop. Shop's a UK thing. Store is a US
going
thing.
to the store. American, it's very American.
Yeah,
going to the store.
You don't have to say it like you've got a bad taste in your mouth.
I like Americans. They're some of my favourite people in the world.
Comic book store, or comic store.
What nations don't
Dan,
you
are you
like, Vince?
googling that to see which one's
No,
correct?
no, no. Because I was thinking, I go to the comic book shop. It's not. I don't go to the
Yeah.
comic shop.
But do you say it's an online shop or an online
Comic
store?
shop. I go to the comic shop. I don't go
Oh,
to the
shit,
comic
that's
book
a-
shop.
Yeah. But I go
Oh,
shopping. No one ever goes storing, do they?
No.
Unless
And
you've
like
got
the
a
Pet Shop
bunker.
Boys. SHOPPING. Let's go shopping.
Yeah.
I don't know that song. I got
No, neither do I. Just leave Tony in whatever decade he's in.
What's the connection between the Pet Shop Boys and comics?
Oh, part of me's scared to
You know
ask.
this one. You know this one.
Do
I don't know this one.
Neil Tennant used to be an editor at Marvel UK.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
before he did Smash Hits,
Oh,
and then he
great.
became a pop star.
Wow. If there's
There
lots
you
of
go.
lots or a few of our listeners who are going, come on, Vince, you knew that. No, I don't. I don't know anything. Don't even.
Don't
Well,
presume.
That's why I started this show, so I can actually learn things
Yeah.
like a human being. I can pretend to human.
We're still
around
waiting for
comic
that day
book
when we learn something. but-
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We
Yeah,
have to get
please
other
come
people.
on.
We have to get other people on this show in order to learn something. But it's just three of us this week, so
Mostly
buckle
we
up.
teach people a lesson.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things he posed initially was like, what was the first comic book store shop?
No!
He's done it.
Shop
He's
you
done
went to.
Oh, Dan, are you Dan?
Are you
once
posing
again,
a question?
Are you
Yes.
are you starting to? Are you trying to get the topic started straight away?
I just
Yeah.
kind of like pulled
It's
the reins of the horse.
all
Come
business.
on.
He's
Yeah,
all business
I mean,
tonight.
some would say pull the reins, or other people would say he's taking the show hostage and running it himself.
He doesn't like to
he's
mess
Dan
about,
Gruber.
isn't he?
Yeah.
Dan's Gruber. See what he's done there. But Dan's, you bring up a wonderful question. What was it again?
What was your first comic book shop?
Genuine comic book shop.
Yeah, it's entirely dedicated to selling comics.
Okay.
It's not your first regular one, the first one you ever went to.
Yeah, mine was the Forbidden Planet, early 80s. I'm
Nice.
going to say, I think I was probably like 12, so round the turn of the decade sometime, and it was Forbidden Planet when it was in Denmark Street.
See, this is
Yeah.
going to sound strange, but genuinely looking for information here. What was Forbidden Planet like in those days?
It was so
'Cause I
for
didn't
those that,
discover it till a Forbidden Planet because there wasn't one anywhere near me when I was growing up.
yeah.
I.e.
Well, there
middle
was
of
just
nowhere.
one then. There was just one, and I think it's a muddy history of Forbidden Planet, isn't it? But there's kind of sort of 2 or 3 strands of Forbidden Planet now. But the one's got a different name. But the original OG shop was in. So I was at boarding school, and we would occasionally go on school trips to London, and I would leg it off from the school trip, or my dad during the holidays, as I lived in West London, would drive us into London to go to the mart or go to a comic shop, which usually entailed me as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 15-year-old wandering around Soho looking for comic shops on my own, which back then was a dangerous profession because the Soho of now is a lot nicer than the Soho of then.
Yeah.
Now, the Forbidden Planet back then, I think, from the top of my head, I haven't Googled it, but I think it was like late 70s. I'm going to say 78, 79, around the time that Forbidden Planet opened it. And it was basically 2 venues. One venue was in Denmark Street. Do you know what Denmark Street's famous for in London, guys? Have you ever been there?
I've been there. No, I don't know.
It's basically a road full of guitar shops.
Ah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, off Charing Cross Road, up towards the Tottenham Court Road junction, near the old Astoria, as it was. God bless it before it went. And it was in a row, basically in a row of guitar shops. Was this one? They had a railing along the front, and as you went in, I remember lots of stuff on the walls, sort of racking along, lots of paperback novels, some art about, and I think I'm right in saying, because I was only is that some of the price tags were actually handwritten from my memory.
Right. Okay.
And I remember going in there and buying, it would have been Byrne or Cockrum X-Men, maybe some George Perez Avengers, stuff like that, and literally spending hours in there. I remember one time I went into London. This is the thing I wrote about in Madeline, the short story book that
Yeah.
Simon put out, that me and Dan are both in. and a lot of the other listeners.
Simon Russell.
Simon Russell, yeah. Which is a wonderful little book of people's sort of recollections, just of sort of comic memories, really. Dan writes about filth, obviously. And I mean, we went to see, this shows my age, we went on a school politics trip, history trip, to see Prime Minister's Question Time. And it was Maggie Thatcher, believe it or not. And the teacher, we all went on the train. The teacher said, right, off you go. He dropped us off outside the House of Commons, and you used to have to go through, and you could go up to a balcony and watch Question Time, or just watch the Commons, And I remember Maggie Thatcher came in, I remember there being loads of shouting and stuff, and she had a little handbag she put at her feet. She didn't say anything. She picked her handbag up and left after about 20 minutes. I thought, well, fucking bonus. I'm going to go now. So I legged it, like literally ran along past number 10, down that road, around Whitehall, ran all the way to Forbidden Planet and almost missed my train back because I just got lost in it all in Forbidden Planet. But it was an app. I mean, we take comic book shops for granted now, but back then I was like, there's a shop that just sells comics. That's the best thing in the world. That's the most amazing thing I can possibly think of. And from that point, because I was at boarding school, for those that know, which was based in Ipswich, and there was a comic shop there called The Globe, which used to, because I was such a nerd, I used to go and sit outside for like the hour before it opened, hoping I could get in. And it was a real dirty old comic shop. And I remember the bloke virtually never spoke to me in there. And I was in there for hours, in this little room for hours, just going through cheap comic boxes and seeing what I could afford, And we used to have to wear our uniform into town, which was embarrassing, because part of the uniform was a cap. And you used to avoid getting punched by people. And then I used to sort of find somewhere to sit in the local park and read these comics before legging it back for the meal in the boarding house. But it was a different world then. And now we take it for granted now that we've got these comic shops everywhere in each city. But back then it was absolute fucking revelation to my 12-year-old, 13, 14-year-old mind, Absolutely brilliant. Magical times.
Was the one in Denmark Street, the one where it was kind of like there wasn't a lot of it upstairs, but you could go downstairs and it was a lot bigger?
Somebody has said that to me, and I can't remember going downstairs. I must have done.
Because I was like, that you went in and off to the right, there was like the till and stuff in that room.
Oh, no, I can't remember that, man. I think you're thinking of the old Orbital, aren't you? Up near?
No, there's another one near the British Museum. But
that was Gosh. Yeah, that was
Gosh,
that was the old venue of Gosh. Yeah,
there was the other Forbidden Planet, which was kind of you had to go through like the stone arch to get in.
Oh, you're thinking when it was in New Oxford Street?
Oxford, yes.
Yeah, that's where it moved to.
Right, I mean, that's the one I went to.
The original one was two shops, because it was the comic shop in Denmark Street, and then if you walked past it with it on your left and went left again, was the movie one.
Right.
And it was back then, like, there wasn't really that much movie paraphernalia.
Yeah.
There's a few magazines on the go and stuff like that. And there was, from memory, I think like an old Wolfman model in the window and stuff like that. And that was the movie one, which if I had any money spare or if I had some time to kill, I'd walk around to as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Burn up a bit of your the afternoon or whatever you're going to do.
Yeah. What about you guys? What was yours?
I've said it on the show before. I think when I moved on from like the newsagents and like the idea of just a store dedicated to comics, like you say, Tony, is like when you're a young reader, I think it's easy for people to take that for granted now, because there are obviously more stores available. Hopefully you're all doing well. But I lived out. I lived in Dorset, so like small town in Dorset, so there wasn't anything like that near me. Closest thing was Floppy Tongue Comics in Salisbury, and at the point when I really sort of got connected with comics a lot. A couple of my friends used to head down there. They definitely be down there, and they come back with sort of newer comics. I was still on like the weekly news agent. Oh, X-Force #1 or #2's just come out. It's whatever was so big it reached the newsstands kind of thing.
Yeah.
So eventually and it was a small little store. You just had a small 20 by 20 front room, and then with the sort of little counter. even like the comics behind the register, I can't remember. I think they had a couple, but it was more about, you know, you had like a bunch of long boxes in the front, you had a couple of shelves of the new releases that week, and the back room was sort of long boxes as well. Of course, I had no disposable income. I had nothing really, you know. But I think it was when I went to college, which was in Salisbury, and I went in there a little bit more when I had a little bit more money from like part-time job or whatever. I think this is maybe where it started my love of the long box search, because I would love that time of the year, because the store always did this. You know, once a year they're just shifting stock. You know, they've got all these long boxes. They just need to get rid of them. Little shop. So you go in and it's like a sale. Or everything in this long box is £1 an issue, that kind of thing, or 50p or £1. And of course, I was like, I'm just going to go in there and buy. At that time, where if you had £10, A, it was a decent amount of money, and B, it meant I could buy like 10 comics. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, so I wasn't necessarily searching for the latest Clone Saga issue. That was when I wanted to discover, and I think you guys can relate to this as well, and I think it's the same for a lot of tastes and hobbies, probably more like music, is when you discover something, it feels like no one else knows about this. I've discovered this is mine.
Right.
So rather than going for the Spider-Man and the X-Men and the Batman, which I did read, you know, I was still reading that, huge fans of that, I got a kick out of like discovering Malibu. Do you know what I mean? Like old issues of Malibu, and I was like, no one else is looking at this. Why is no one looking at these old issues of like, you know, Malibu comics, or those strange like Solar Man of the Atom? You know, some of the old sort of Valiant stuff that was sort of really tucked away a little bit. You would see those sort of, you know, and you buy some issue that was related in no way to anything else. You only had one issue that was either a number one of a series that's long since dead and no one cared about, probably had like a couple of hundred sales and then just died on its ass. But you don't know that when you go into this comic book shop. So you're there like, oh, what is this number one going to be like? Or it's an issue where you don't know where you are with it. It's halfway through a story, but you'll reread. You've bought it because of the art. That was a big thing for me when I was a kid as well. Just being, you know,
there weren't that many number ones about then.
No,
that's the thing.
No, certainly. And I think that's why I had my during one of those sales, I had a real Malibu. I just went mad.
I loved all those Malibu comics.
You know, when all those issues like Prime and
I was all over that.
Nightman.
Is it Hard Case?
Hard Case.
Yeah. So there was
Strangers.
all of those old, because
Strangers was great, you know.
Yeah.
They'd been out for a while, so all of these issues.
Some of them had Dave Gibbons covers, didn't they?
Yeah,
remember?
Just absolutely.
I think was it stuff. Prime was Norm Brayfogle? Was that?
Yeah.
Because his fucking stuff was just. I was loving that as a kid.
I bought that issue one from the Comic Mart probably about half a year ago. That issue one.
Yeah.
I still got a kick out of it. It was crazy. It's still. I was looking at it going, this is mental.
It gets even more pumped up, doesn't he? They seem to blow him up further and further as you get through the series. Yeah. Then there was like a dark version of him at one point as well, wasn't there?
Yeah.
But it was a sort of Shazam story, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He was a young kid, but yeah.
He vomited in that. It kind of made this kind of ectoplasm kind of stuff that reformed him into like a grotesque Superman kind of figure.
At the end of the first issue, because he was like filled full of these bullet holes or whatever, in order to turn back to the kid, all of this ooze was like leaking out of him, and it was almost horrific.
Yeah, it's a real body horror from that comic.
So is that Floppy Tom Comics? I mean, a couple of my mates knew the owners a bit more. It is long since gone, and I know a couple of our listeners know the store. Me, I was like introverted kid, you know. I was just kept myself to myself. I was very much head down, looking over the long boxes, as I'm sure a lot of us were.
Most comic fans were like that, man.
Yeah. But one thing you said, Tony, that struck me, which is something that I still get a kick out of now. I'm sure you guys do. It doesn't matter where or what store it is. If a hobbyist goes into a store completely dedicated to their hobby, there's no feeling like it.
Oh, it's great.
It really is a mecca. Like, so you're walking going,
Yeah.
oh, just give me a couple of hours and I'll meet you later.
Looking for a long box as well. It's
Yeah.
just
It's the same as anyone who are into records
Yeah.
or old paperbacks or
yeah.
So there's
art.
loads of stuff you come across that you've never fucking heard of before.
Yeah.
You probably never will again. But
Yeah.
Do you still get that? I mean, because in this sort of day and age, and Tony, like, for instance, you guys that have, my local comic book store that I go in every Wednesday, that could, for some people, maybe I'm just going in the shop and you just stand and going. For me, I just get, I don't know why, there's this little, almost electrical buzz of going into like an actual sort of comic store or, any sort of hobby store that I've been into. It's like an endorphin that's just sort of.
I get excited about going.
Yeah. You just go in there. Even if it's like a, one of those ones where you think, everything's damp in here.
Yeah.
There's still I'm in a comic
And
book
it's
shop.
an hour. It's an hour for me to get to my shop. But I do it. It's like a pilgrimage. Once or twice. Every 2 weeks or every week. It really is. And I get there. I get super early. I go and get a coffee and I read some comics.
Yeah.
And then I go for opening time and I try and get in because I haven't opened yet. It's like that. You know. I absolutely love it. And we'll get onto this bit in a minute, but there's different reasons to go to different shops. I think.
Yeah.
Shops can be different.
Yeah. What was your one then, Dan? What was yours?
Like you, Vince, I think I mentioned this before, but it was the Phantom Zone in Croydon.
Yeah.
And I can remember I was kind of into the whole kind of Transformers, Dragon's Claws stuff that was in the Newsagent, and I thought that was kind of the length and breadth of comics. So when someone I was going to school with, it was early secondary school, said, "Oh, there's a comic book shop in Croydon," I was like, "Okay, let's go." And when I went there, it was like, holy fuck! It was just like the hobby and these things I'd interested in was like magnified like 100 times. There was so much stuff. And where every week I was going in to see what was in the Newsagent comic book wise, here was like all of it. It was like going directly to the source. And this is like the next level up. And I was fucking in my element. I remember the guy basically was just showing Akira on VHS, like just kept rolling round and round. And that's my sort of first intro to that. And I was like, well, what's the fuck's Akira? And I'd kind of couple comics before where I'd bought them and it was like Maya the Psychic Girl. And I think I had an old issue of Crime Freeman that I got in a pack, and I didn't really understand the comics. They were like, "Oh, these are Japanese," but back in the day there was no internet in that regard, so you couldn't just look up what the fuck these were. Is this some random comic you got?
You still didn't guess my terrible sketch earlier.
No, sorry, T. But I think I kind of started there and just buying. I remember having to jump forward some series that I was collecting where it was behind in the Newsagent, like collecting Cap.
Because there's always 3 months behind in the Newsagent. That's the thing.
Me, I can buy 3 more issues, and suddenly I get all these comics I'm loving. I can buy 3 or 4 more issues because I'm behind.
That's the massive thing about the Newsagent thing is because it took so long for them to be, I don't know, shipped over or on a boat or whatever it was. You were 3 months behind if you were lucky because the way it worked in the news agencies, they'd get like a package of all the Marvel comics, one of each, and you had to like dash.
You missed
to it.
that.
It was part, but the thing is, it was part of that joy of not having the internet.
Yeah, massively.
Because
that's what I was going to say, man. Yeah, because
there was no spoilers. There was no, and like, I don't know how prevalent comic book fans were in school. So certainly, I had a couple of buddies that. Were comic book fans, but we were reading different series and stuff. So it's not like someone going, "Oh, have you read what's happened in the latest issue of X-Men and stuff?" But
if you said I like Batman and Superman in school today, it wouldn't be a problem. If you said it back when I was a kid, you'd have a problem.
I didn't talk to anyone about my comic reading for decades.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say around that is you buy them in the newsagents, and I would literally tour newsagents around the boarding house. So I would get on a bike and cycle to every single one, see if I get the next issue or whatever. And same when I was back home in Greenford. But the thing that I used to do was I remember getting just a mail out circular for a mail out company, and it had a list of the upcoming comics with a little story description in them.
Right. Okay.
And I remember just like reading this like a million times, and I remember it grabbing my heart, my stomach, saying, "God, I really hope I get these." Because you can never tell whether you get them or not.
I used to do that with previews. Like, I'd read all the fucking things in previews.
Oh,
It's like,
God,
just
yeah.
this comic, that comic.
Yeah, it's my friend Dan and his older brother. I remember they used to come back and like they'd have a couple of bags, and they would get a copy of previews between them, and we'd sit down just reading comics, and just looking through previews was almost like reading a comic in itself. You know, just getting excited about, wow, look at that.
All this stuff coming up.
Yeah.
And most of the stuff I wouldn't be able a chance to ever get because it was like there were a lot of smaller indie stuff or small press, and they'd never actually make it into the shop because the shop would never order one.
Yeah.
But reading about them was just out of this world. It was great.
Yeah.
Again, we've mentioned Wizard like a billion times, but that was my fucking lifeblood.
Yeah.
If I went into the comic book shop and like I was picking up my usual pull list of whatever comics I was going to get, and Wizard was in there, I was like, fucking yes, Wizard's in it.
This is going to sound. This is a slight aside, slight subplot, shall we say? And we'll get back onto the stores in a sec. But just, and I think possibly this could be a episode by itself. Do you think there's room in the world today for like a bigger comics magazine? Now I know there are magazines and periodicals out, and some of them are very specific and collector oriented. But you know, Wizard was such a big thing.
I think there's some elements of Wizard that are doable again.
Yeah,
I think the creator interviews. I think some of just the fun they did with like action figures stories and stuff like that. Or there's but so much of it is now the internet, isn't it? Especially the news, especially what's hot at the moment, because it changes so quickly. You know, what the sort of price guide stuff they'd have as well. That's basically eBay now, isn't it?
Yeah.
And a
It's
couple of
almost
other
like
places.
you've got to change the form of it, where instead of having, you know, because like you say, you can't have news in a magazine type thing, especially in this day and age where everything changes on a weekly basis.
Quickly.
It's almost like it would be a magazine based on, like, I don't know, like a GQ article, you know, talking to a creator, you know, genuinely, you know, talking through different processes of comics and stuff. It would be a very different beast, wouldn't it?
Would it sell though? That'll be my thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
That's the problem, innit? People would be buying stuff they could read for free. I mean, which is fair enough because Tomorrow's, I guess, sells and stuff like that. Not that it's cheap, but their magazines are sort of more specialist. So there's stuff on there, and the Comics Journal, for example.
I think in the comics medium, a lot of them they're a specialist magazine for the reader of that type of comic.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Even the Comics Journal's gone down that road. You know, the Comics Journal was a bit of a sort of highbrow Wizard, wasn't it? Really, in a way.
Yeah.
And even that's gone a bit.
Is that Comics International? Is Comics International still going? Is that the one?
No, they tried to bring it back years ago, but I think like 2010 or so, 28.
Going back to the comic book store, that was the two magazines. You'd have all the comics, and the two magazines that I'd see on the shelf. Well, you'd always have Fangoria. You've got to show Fangoria. But
Cinefacts,
the comic ones, Starburst and all that nonsense. But the two that you'd see, the comic ones, were always Wizard and Comics International. That was the two that I saw.
Yeah, I was more Comics International than Wizard. I used to buy Wizard when I saw it if I had the money, but mostly it was Comics International. I've got a run of all Comics International issues.
For me,
nice.
It was Wizard, and purely down to the short attention span brain, because I'd open up Comics International and it was very article prose heavy compared to the Wizard. Bright colours, here's some photos, here's some art. Do you know what I mean? And then they were very different and wonderful magazine.
The good thing for me, I chatted to Des about this. Well, I think did he mention this when he was on? I can't remember where I mentioned it to him when I met him. But the good thing about Comics International is you opened the back page and it had a list of every comic shop you could go to. So if I used to travel about quite a lot with work. If I was in, say, I don't know, Newcastle, I could look up comic shops in Newcastle. It was great for that.
That's great.
Internet,
Yeah. So I do hope, in terms of comic book stores / shops, wherever you are in the world. One thing I do hope is people still get that buzz of excitement when they.
Well, that's part of the next question, isn't it? Is what makes a good comic shop? That's the thing.
Yeah, I was at an age I was kind of like nervous of my own fucking shadow. So having the idea of having a conversation with someone in the shop with a stranger about comics wasn't going to fly.
If I came away and it had been okay, it would have been the best day ever.
Yeah.
If I'd have spoken to someone and they go, "Don't be so stupid," I would have been destroyed,
crushed.
Absolutely
crushed.
And there may be some listeners listening at the moment, and we've talked about comic book shops quite a lot on this show, and obviously we may have asked these questions before. In fact, I'm pretty certain we have. But the market and the general shopping experience is always ever evolving. So I think it's worth reviewing. Like, these sort of topics are worth reviewing almost on a yearly basis to just be like, what's going to do well this year, and that comes about through also being informed. For instance, if I'm going to take one aspect, and I'll get back to the question shortly, Tony. But I probably would have been quick to go, going to a comic book store, it's just, Funko Pops, grumble, grumble, Funko, grumble, grumble, grumble. Do all of that, backseat driving, miserable old bastard that I do on the regs. But then, like, speaking to comic book shop owners, or like that retail video that Mark Miller did with the several different retailers, and having that, some stores have to do things like that. They don't necessarily want to, but they have to do that because that's a collector market that will keep them going. So to be more informed, I mean, I'm not a fan of it, but also I want these stores to stay open so that do you know what I mean? It's seeing that sort of. There are some stores that have to they have to choose some things so that the actual business can keep going. And sometimes it's hard for some consumers, and probably me a lot of the time, to easily judge a comic book store for some decisions they make without realizing.
What you mean? What you're saying? So these comic shops that stuff the front of the shop with Funkos, I mean, the Magic the Gathering cards or something like that.
There are some stores that, obviously the bigger name stores who don't necessarily need to do it. I think it's cash grab, but there's also an awareness that these things do bring money into these stores. So even if I don't collect them, even if I don't want them, some stores
how far does your you're sort of in your head you're saying, look, it's all right because it's helping the shop. How far would that go? So how far away from comics would you allow them to go? Do you know what I mean? I suppose that's the question, isn't it? Yeah. So, like we're saying at the moment,
we're talking about a Forbidden Planet. The top floor, the comics are downstairs now in the basement.
They've even been pushed back a bit from there as well.
Exactly. That saddens me because it's one of those. These things should be. I mean, they moved away from being comics to being a pop culture memorabilia store. That's a completely different thing. Then, if it's in the store, I mean, obviously, if it's to draw a bit of money in, I don't see the problem with having.
Look, if they're struggling and they need to sell Magic the Gathering cards, I have no problem. If they're struggling and they got to sell Funko, but I would say if they're struggling and they decide to sell fucking sex toys and porn at the front, and I go, come on, lads.
No,
you know what I mean? It's how far do they step away from it that we're not allowed. We don't allow anyone. Nobody's allowed to do it. We don't allow anyone because we're not fucking idiots. But how far do we think? Come on, I mean. It galls me that a shop is full of Funkos when I walk in. It certainly does. Yeah. But I understand it. It would gall me even more if it was full of fucking carrots and bananas at the front. You know what I mean? But
and I think when it sort of it hurts me more. I grit my teeth. My teeth are ground into powder. Is when I have to walk past more and more Funkos, and there's 2 shelves of comics at the back. Tucked at the back. And that saddens. I think it saddens me more than angers. Now I'm just sort of thinking,
Yeah, because it's kind of like a sign or an indication of where it's going, and that's the sad part of it.
There's a difference between a store having like a display or having them at the desk. Having these things at the desk while you're in there, but you're still a comic book store with shelves of graphic novels, shelves of comics.
This is an analogy. I'd say, like, say if you went into a record store, you'd find very little of that shop that wouldn't be about records and vinyls. There might be, like, say 10% of it there where you got like jackets or hats or some kind of paraphernalia that's sort of record related. Do you know what I mean? But the majority would be records. But a comic shop, the majority I've been in recently, there's it's not so much that. It's like a
It's-
lot more.
I mean, you got to be
it's the
careful as
investment in
well.
the customers. It's the
Yeah.
investment in the customers. You got to divide it. But see, I see. The thing is, it does gall me that the thing of full of Funkos. I mean, things are led by the market, aren't they?
Yeah.
It is basically
Can't argue against that, can you?
It's basically capitalism, isn't
Yeah.
it? That people are
Yeah.
selling comics. So don't these people who think they're in a fucking socialist, communist environment. They're not. They're capitalist in a capitalist environment. So you got to sell what you can to make your money, to pay your rent, to pay your customers, to pay your staff, etc., etc. Now the problem with Funkos I've got is not that they're stupid little dead-eyed babies. It's the fact that they're particularly unfriendly to the environment. you know, they are a cash grab for a plastic toy making company. They don't have the intrinsic, artistic richness that you would get in even a page of a comic book. And I think that as long as you've got them there, but the people who are buying them, they're buying an Aquaman. They said, "Have you seen Peter David's Aquaman? Look at this. You would love this comic."
Like I said, it's
Fucking no problem.
because they're based. They were sitting on the shoulders of someone else's hard work.
Yeah. But also, like, people go in for Funkos because they want the Funkos. They want nothing else. I think that saddens me because it's like, I like the new Batman film. Well, check out this classic Batman arc. No, I just like the films. Fair enough. Like what you want to like. Just don't be a dick.
They do try and fucking release a new version of a Funko every 5 minutes. It seems like there's another advert something else. Okay, fair enough.
I mean, it's the same with Harry Potter wands. It's it's all this sort of shit
or
as well.
The endless Stranger Things merchandise that I see in a lot of stores, and I like Stranger Things, but a lot of this stuff is like you can see, it's just merchandise at the end of the day.
I'll tell you something I'd like to see in comic shops, and I've seen it in bookstores as well, and vice versa. But like, they've got a comic or a book turned out, so you've got the cover full out, and it's got like a staff recommends card underneath it.
Yeah, I like that.
I like the staff recommends.
Yeah, it's like, I like this because blah 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 blah. If you're a fan of X, Y, and Z.
Some comic shops do it. I think OK Comics does it, didn't they?
Yeah.
Gosh used to do it. I don't think they still do it, but there's a lot of shops that do that.
That goes a long way, because if I buy that book and it's fucking great, that tells me that's an opinion that I'm going to listen to next time I go in there, and I'll fucking try something else out.
Yeah. Look, whether I walk in and they've got Funkos or not, no, it doesn't matter to me, as long as they are invested in comics in a large way as well. And
I'd like to see within the first quarter of the store a comic shelf.
But the thing is, like, you've got to be invested in your regular customers. That's the thing I like about a comic shop, is there is an investment in the people who are paying the fucking rent.
Yeah.
Not like and it's the same for the flighty graphic novel crowd as it is for a number of different crowds. But these people they're too intent on being cool or being popular or being current.
It's what makes it different to a lot of shops and stores. It's completely different from like walking into your favorite music shop and saying, "Oh, have you got this album by this band?" It's a subscription shop, because we're essentially going in and saying, "Can I have my comic?" Picking up our subscriptions every week. There's not too many sort of like.
I think the nearest one is the record shop, but you're right that they don't. I mean, I don't know whether there is.
Even that would be like when are you picking up an album by a new band every year, I think every 2 years, that sort of thing. Whereas the comic is every week, isn't it? It's that.
Well, I think but the thing with the record shop, and I've hung out in a number of record shops, is you go in and you talk to the staff and they recommend stuff to you, and that's where I was going with this. Is it needs to have a community feel to it.
Yeah.
So the people who are buying comics, you'll walk in and there'll be a conversation about the comics in there. In the same way, you walk into a record shop, you're a regular customer, goes, "Have you heard the new blah blah album? I'll put it on for you." Or have you seen the new Conan comic? Here you go, here it is. Have a look.
I've not had that interaction in years.
I used to get it every so often in. There was one bloke in Orbital used to try and do a hard sell, do that whole put the book in your hands bullshit. But there was the odd thing in Orbital. I'm very, apart from Greg, I don't get it in Gosh. It's very rarely in Gosh. I know that other comic shops in the country. I know Danielle was talking about it with OK.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'd love to live around the corner from OK.
Yeah, me too. Yeah,
I'd love it.
And I got it when I went to City Centre Comics in Glasgow. The dude was chatting about new books and stuff like that. I like that. And I'll tell you where you get it as well. You get it in the Forbidden Planet if you chat to Mr. Peter Watson.
There you
in
go.
Glasgow.
Hey.
Yeah, I talked to him, and David Steele was in there as well when I went in. But I talked to Pete every time I go in there, and he recommends stuff, and I buy stuff he recommends.
I think one of the beautiful things about like this hobby and like the medium is like if you're genuinely interested in it, and certainly Some stores, some people it's just their job, but there are some people that their job is also their hobby that they love, which
and it's called being good at your job as well. I think.
Yeah.
But you know, they read this stuff and they know it, and they're genuinely enthusiastic, and that pays dividends, doesn't it? Enthusiasm is really infectious, I think.
Oh, totally. If you
massively.
Yeah.
Think of the comics we've sold for people off this show because we've just been enthusiastic.
We really liked it, and been enthusiastic.
Yeah, I recommend usually will get me. Well, it will always. It's more likely to get me to spend my money than just a hard sell. I'm not.
Oh yeah, that's a real turn off for me.
Yeah.
The thing I don't like about the hard sell is I feel like one's been put over on me, and you never want someone feeling like that because that's only gonna. Right, you've sold a copy of this comic to them, but then they feel like they've been fucked over, so they won't get it from you ever again because.
Yeah.
Let's look at a comic store, and by the way, I know sometimes this show is played in comic stores. We bloody love you all, so no doubt you're listening to this thinking you're mad. What are you talking about?
Big shout out to Strange Apparitions because there's a dude who will talk to you as you're walking about comics, and you'll still be talking as you say goodbye. Yeah, that's what you want.
Destination
Venus as well. Follow them on
Insta.
I think I tried to speak to someone in Orbital when I last went in there. Obviously, it's been years since that happened, but like they looked at me like I was a fucking alien. Like
I walked in there once and said to some bloke in there, "Have you got any of these?" And he pointed at, just waved at the back of the other half of the back half of the shop was back issues, and he just waved. He said, "It's back there," and I went, "I know that's where the back issues go. I've been coming in here." For decades at this point. I've had a pull list here for years. I know it's where the back issues, and you saw him look at me and like, oh fuck.
Oh, fuck's sake. Like you're fucking sitting there reading comics, can you just get off your ass and give me a hand to make a sale?
Okay.
I mean, a bit of a general life advice. Generally, I found for jobs, if you put in fuck all and just like drift by, your day will take fucking forever and it'll be absolutely tedious as fuck. If you try and work a bit and like get invested in what you're doing to succeed, it usually flies by. But that's
and we're not male Karens on this podcast. But
no.
If I walk in a shop, if I walk in a Darren's, if I walk in a shop,
Darren's out there,
I walk in a shop that I spend literally thousands of pounds every year in, and I've been going there for literally years. And I say, "Can I just pick my comics up?" And the bloke asks me my name again. It's gonna fucking royally piss me off.
Yeah. If you got a regular customer, appreciate the regular customer.
Yeah,
because I think everyone's seen a post of comic book shops supposedly having regular customers, but their regular customers don't show up, and that's a real that hurts I think the comic book shop. You know?
That issue with kind of like forgetting just the regular Joe that comes in every week to get the stuff is what kind of the big two kind of have misstepped. And
yes, I think you're right. It's comparable
keep misstepping, didn't they?
Yeah.
It's like here's our audience. We're going to kind of ignore them and try and get another audience. And why are you doing that, man? Try and include all of them. Try and keep your base, and then add other people in. Don't
grow. Don't
grow. Oh, it's nuts. Oh, well.
All right then. While we're talking, we've each got a comic book store. This is going to be interesting. And there's 5 different sections. Okay.
Right.
How
much do you give to each section? Now,
okay.
Here are the 5 you've got. If you've got
right, okay, I'm gonna write this down because you're going to give we've got to give a percentage of how much we spend.
Okay.
So apologies, the maths may be off because I'm terrible.
Play along at home.
Play along at home. And I know there's a lot more that goes into a store, and you know, obviously this is just fantasy comic book shopping. Should we say?
Okay, yeah.
So the 5 topics we got are new comics. Okay.
Yeah. So that's like what some people call floppies, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that'd be like...
We're talking like, just say within a month, do you know what I mean? Like all the latest issues. So you've got your new comics, the new releases of that week/month.
Yeah.
Back issues.
Yeah.
Collections, and by that I mean obviously collected editions of existing comics, you know.
So like trades.
Trades.
Yeah.
Graphic novels. Okay, so I'm making a differentiation. There's a difference there because, and I mean original
the
graphic
design
novels.
to release as a
So it's a
collection.
one and done. It's been designed as a book. Okay.
Yeah.
And merchandise. Let's just call it
Merch.
that. Let's just call it, and that can include your toys, your figures, your t-shirts, everything else in that sort of section. How much would you give to each section?
Yeah. I'm writing it down. Yeah, I'm doing it.
Okay, so let's just go through them one by one.
Okay.
New comics. So those shelves that everyone, I mean, I've seen it in a lot of stores. You walk in, usually to your left.
I've got 20%.
20.
Yeah.
You've got 20.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Tony,
I've got 60.
Wow. Okay.
60% to new comics.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So your store.
Because I go in the store regularly, so I will know about a lot of the other stuff already.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
V. That was such an undecided noise.
Yeah, that was a real
girl's noise.
25%. I'll say 25.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. We'll be checking your maths.
Yeah. Back issues.
I'll go first.
So
I've gone.
So long boxes.
Yeah, I've gone 30.
Okay.
30. This is long.
So that's basically half my shop is filled with new comics and back issues.
Yeah. So this is.
Now, this is what time we spend on them, isn't it?
No.
Well,
if you had a shop.
I thought it was the time we spend. Sorry.
Your shop, Tony.
Right. I'm having to change it. I'm changing it.
Redo it. So you got 100 square foot, and you're kind of dividing that area of the shop up to plan how much space you're allocating to that part of the shop. So would you revise?
So
give Tony a second.
Easy comics. So Butcher's Books has got 20% for new comics and 30% for your long boxes and your back issues.
Yeah. Okay.
Back issues, which is normal, rather than buy them in, which some stores obviously do. Back issues are normally once they've come off the new comic shelf.
Yes.
Aren't they?
I thought it was what time we spent. Right. Okay. So I'm going to change mine.
Okay,
so let's quickly go back.
So in your shop, Tony, you're running a comic book
in my
shop.
shop.
Cool, imagine
so
that.
New comics 30%.
Okay, 30%.
Back issues 30%.
Okay.
Tony's
tomes.
Tony, yeah. Okay.
What's your one, Vince?
Invincible comics.
Yours is way better than ours.
Can I call mine erotic comics?
Yeah.
Okay.
You put the E in erotic. So we got
Esmond's erotic comics.
Oh God! Right, that's completely thrown me off.
Okay. Right, so we're on to trades now, aren't we?
Yes. So just to reiterate, because we've got a little. So new comics. Tony Esmond's got 30%. Am I right, Tony?
Yeah.
Dan, you had 20% new comics.
Yep.
I've got 25%. Back issues, long boxes. Tony?
30.
30.
30
Dan,
for me.
You've got 30 for me. I'm going to say 25 as well. Much in the way that of Dan's thinking of half of the store will be...
Half the store of floppies, basically.
Okay. So, trade paperbacks. How much do you give to that?
Dan?
I've got 20.
I've got 22.
Yeah.
20. I also have 20. And I haven't got 22. I also have 20.
20.
Oh.
Yes. I can go for fucking 28s and 22s and shit.
No. I think 20 is a good one for that. OGNs, let's just call it that.
10.
19.
In Vietnam.
I'm going to say 20% for that.
Okay.
Merchandise.
20 for me.
1%.
1%.
1%.
I don't want to make money. Fuck you all. I just want to do comments.
Yeah, fair enough.
I've got 10% of that. Let's just do the maths.
You know what I'd have? I'd have one of those. You used to go in HEV and get those massive poster racks, and you flip through them.
Oh, I fucking love them.
Yeah.
Just of comic posters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it counts. Yeah.
So, Tony, for the collections you had 20%.
Yeah.
Dan, you had 20% as well.
Yeah.
For your collections. Tony's Trades was 19%. I mean,
graphic novels.
Graphic novels. OGN's was 19%.
19%.
Dan's was 10%. Mine was 20%. And
mine was only 1% because you could have those warrior badges they used to have on the back.
So you're just selling enamel badges. Brilliant. 1%.
Yeah. Minimal merch.
Fuck merch. That's going to be my fuck merch section.
Fuck merch.
But speaking of the fuck merch, Dan, you've got 20%.
I have a shop called Fuck Merch.
Yeah.
That's it. That's your spin-off shop, and I've got 10%. See, I think
around the back.
That's obviously like fantasy, creating a comic book shop, and we be interested to see on the Slack or online.
If you had an idea, what do you do?
What you guys would do? Obviously,
shall I run you through what I thought it was then?
Yeah, go on.
So I thought you were saying how much time do I spend in those sections?
Yeah.
So I was going, because I go in every week or every 2 weeks, it would be new comics 60%, back issues 20%, because I kind of know what they've got in back issues. I might have a quick flick through. Trades 10%, graphic novels 9%, because they're mostly graphic novels that are mostly like on the table, so you see them are on facing you, and then merch 1%, which tends to be Snoopy badges by the counter.
Yeah,
I try to keep my eye off of merch nowadays because I don't want it. I don't want it until I see it. Do you know what I mean? So I don't. It's kind of like being a fat person.
I give in every so often. I gave in over those June figures, but I've taken them out of the boxes. I'm not desperate, and I'll put them up on my shelf.
See, for me, when I walk into a shop, I think there's obviously the new comics. I don't really go to back issues unless there's something specific, so it's very rare, and usually time is limited. And if you go do back issues, that's something that's like a comic mart you like to spend a long time doing. So I usually don't have that sort of time when I'm in a store. So back issues usually doesn't. I have to sort of have a quick flick through, but it's that's hardly any time at all. So it's like the new comics and less the collections and OGNs kind of around the same sort of. I look through the book section, see what there is, see if there's anything on offer. Cheapskate. And
totally look for stuff on sale or on special.
Yeah. Look at the sales section.
Tight asses.
If someone's giving me like a phone book,
we don't live on our yacht, Tony. We don't all live on a yacht.
I'm like that character. I've got loads of money. I just walk in with a big fucking wad of cash.
Just fucking go. You have a comic. You have a comic.
For younger fans, that was a popular Harry Enfield character in the 90s.
A one for the kids there.
For the kids listening. With Stavros, peeps.
I love Stavros.
Yeah.
And remarkably more richer than you are. What was that character? Do you remember him? Tim Rice, but dim.
Yeah.
He was good, wasn't he?
Yeah. I was going to say, talking about
toys, merchant action figures, I'd probably spend a couple of minutes there now, I think.
Yeah.
Just looking over and then thinking, I can't afford that.
Fucking hell. It's like, look, there's a Sabretooth figure. Oh, it's for 30 quid.
Yeah, fine, roll on. I'll tell you, it's good to know. Mark Abnett, he always knows where the cheap action figures are. He always feeds us them, doesn't he?
I think we get stuff
like a feeder.
Pumped into that toys channel. One to keep an eye out is Zavi, because they often we're coming to the end of a run. We'll just get rid of all the action figures for like £5-10. So I was going to mention, talk about fantasy comic book stuff. It's slightly related. You got yourself a game, haven't you, Vince? Where
what's that like? Game?
You run a comic book
company.
Yes, Age of Comics, which I wish you were going to drop this on me, Dad, so I could. So
I just thought of it. I didn't.
It's a board game by Lirius Comics, but it's completely set up to be. You're playing a. It's almost like.
Does it look like a European game that they've translated? Is it?
Yeah, it's Italian creators, but obviously there are lots of different translations. And basically, you create your own little comic book company in the 1950s, and you're trying to put out. You got to put out issues based on genre, try and collecting fans.
Wow,
I haven't played it yet, but it looks like good fun, and also you get like
it's a beautiful little game as well.
Yeah, you look at these little tokens, and there's these little covers of comic books. So you're trying to publish. Yeah,
I wouldn't want to take that out of the box. It looks too precious to fucking.
It is a beautiful.
Just pour it at the box. Don't ever open it up.
I'll put a link in illyriusgames.com. I think it's the first one that they've.
I think you mentioned it, didn't you, Tony? And then showed the link, and then Vince.
Yeah. Did I send you a link or something, or did you know about it already?
No, I didn't know Yeah, I didn't know.
Oh,
that, so you
nice.
guys
Oh, that's
brought it
good news.
up. Yeah, so,
Good stuff. Can I run a scenario past us while we're still on the subject of comic
Yeah.
shops? So I know we sort of naturally move off it, but okay. So I'm gonna talk you through a visit to the comic shop, and I want you to tell me what you would expect.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the shop opens at, let's say, 10:30. It's about average, isn't it, for
Yeah.
a shop?
I'm asleep. Go on.
Yeah, me and Dan have already texted each other 400 times. You're just waking up.
I've been the better part of 8 hours. I've been awake.
yeah. I'm already having a nap. So you're early. You arrive just as they're opening up. They open the door. Do you like the staff to say good morning, or do you just not worried about interaction?
Totally. Yeah. No, I want.
Yeah, certainly if they're if
you like a good morning, you're a sort of friendly chap, are you? Would you say
I'd expect a comic book shop to be more personable than like you going into a supermarket.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
I go into a lot of independent stores, and like no matter what it is, if it, you just sort of go into these small, independent funded shops. Whenever you go into them, people always go, "Oh yeah,
yeah."
Why should that be any different in a comic book shop? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, good. Okay, so you go in and you go to the counters, two separate counters. There's one you pay at and one you collect your comics at. You go to the other counter to collect your comics.
Go on.
Do you have to say your name?
Depend if I was a regular, like every week or so, hopefully they'd know it.
Yeah.
I would like to be addressed as such.
Let's rewind a bit. So you walk in, you say because you're both happy chaps. You say morning.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. Yeah.
And they don't say anything back to you. What
that
do
would
you
annoy me. That would annoy me.
Annoy me. Okay. So you go over to the counter. You say, "Oh, hello. My name's Guns. Come to pick my comics up."
What's that?
Who? And they hand you your comics.
You want guns? We don't sell guns here.
Yeah, do you expect like an interaction? What would you expect?
What
would be something you'd like? Put it that way. At that point.
Maybe like, is any titles in there you kind of looking forward to reading, or any storylines in there you're looking forward to reading?
Are we role playing this? Are we?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're doing a bit of role play. So I'll play the person. Here you go, guys. Here's your comics.
Oh, I've got Duke in this. Is this tied into the Energon universe? I've read it.
Don't know, mate. I don't care. I'm hungover.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. This is then, mate.
Let's do the reverse then, Dan. So you're going to say what you want, what you would like a person in the shop to say. So, hello, comic shop owner. I'm here to collect my comics.
Oh, excellent. It's Tony Esmond. Is that right? I've grabbed your pull list.
Thank you.
Here you go. And pop them on the counter. I noticed you got Duke, issue 1. Did you know that's tied into the Energon universe?
I did not know that. Thanks for letting me know.
This is so...
when are they out?
This is unreal. Uncanny.
It's just me a warm feeling.
Yeah, the Energon universe there's kind of a brand new kind of startup universe from scratch. Ties into Void Rivals and Transformers.
That sounds brilliant. I'll stop you there.
Put
me down for all of them.
Be realistic.
That's how it would happen, Vince. That's how it happened.
Right, how many people outside of this fucking podcast know what the Energon universe fucking means?
If he was going into a comic shop, you would know. Yeah.
You should know. It's like knowing what a carburetor is in a garage, isn't it? You should know what it's about.
But I think also you got to give people a break. People will know Transformers and G.I. Joe, especially like just the layman or whatever. They may not know what Energon.
Oh, come on!
I reckon they might know.
Running a shop, you should know.
Yeah.
I'm going to say if you're running a shop, you should fucking know.
Certainly, when you get given these books, you're probably given maybe a bit of promo material to go along with it. So
you should, you should be talking about it. You know, you should know about it. You should be reading the site.
It's got it on the fucking cover, like it's part of the Energon universe on those comics.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you can give people a little bit of a break because they don't know Energon universe. They should know that Transformers and G.I. Joe now coming out through Image.
Yes,
You can drop the Kirkman name, bring it all together. You can say all of that. I'm not going to crucify someone because they.
Oh no!
No, fuck them. They should know that. The thing is, it's just that I think the point we're making there is the conversation, the community. Yeah, so from that sort of thing. So I might be standing there. That Dan's talking to me about the new Transformers universe, and the bloke next to me goes, "Oh, I've read that. It's good, mate." And I went, "Oh, right, have you? What else are you reading at the moment, mate?" And you have a conversation. We then become best friends, and a little community builds up, and that's how it works.
Yeah.
And you go into a comic shop. used to be in the old days. I mean, this is we were gonna ask some guests about this, weren't we? But you used to go in a comic shop in the old days, and if you dared to, I remember I've told you the story, haven't I, about going into a comic shop and asking for a Usagi Yojimbo, and the bloke just laughing at me and walking off.
Yeah, that's a bit mean.
You know, but it used to be a frightening fucking thing for us, kids who didn't really have anyone to talk about comics. We'd go in a comic shop and we'd say, it's the new issue of Cyclops and blah, blah, blah out. And and then you'd be frightened to ask them.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. But I think historically, certainly at Comic Marts and a number of comic shops in this country, whole movements of comics have come out of communities that have been built up from those,
Yeah.
You've got to look at the fast fiction universe, or you've got to look like Thingy in Goldeneye, they were that shop, and all these sort of things. There was a shop in Glasgow that people used to hang out in, and this is comics is still here because of communities that are built up from comic shops, and you should be promoting those communities, not just the community of people who bring out a floppy comic, don't want to call it a comic and call it a zine and can't draw.
I think the customer is also a person as well. Judging when they want to be left alone is a real skill as well. Being sort of like, okay, right, maybe someone's having a bad day or whatever, just be like, oh, cool.
Just give a shout them over here.
Giving people their space, but also being there. I mean, what do you think about someone who works behind the desk who's obviously into it, but I think there's something also to be said, not that I've had an experience of this, but if a customer picks up this book, puts it down on the desk, and the person behind the desk goes, oh, I've wanted to read that, what's that about? The conversation...
Oh, I haven't read that yet.
Yeah.
What's that like? I've had chats like that.
And we've had this at conventions, or like people come up, and I'll see something that someone else has bought, and I'll just go, oh, I've got my eye on that, is that any good? And someone opens up when they just they want to talk about, this book's really good because of, there's an art to it in some way, isn't it? To get to bring
you're sharing the love, like I said, the enthusiasm.
Yeah.
If you're kind of like hyped up about a book. Yeah. We've said it a million times when James Gibbs came back with Battle Badges.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
have you seen this? No. Right, I'm gonna go off and get it.
Yeah, where's it? Where is it? It's over there. Let's go.
In terms of like the pull list and stuff, not that I've ever had one with a store. And I know, obviously, I completely understand if you've been there for years and years, Tony, at a store, and they don't know your name or they ask you every time.
Don't you know who I am?
A lot of these stores that we know and love are small, hard-working, independent stores who probably, how big is the pull list that they of customers? Do you know what I mean? How long is the list of customers?
Well, it's their base of sales, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's their regular income that they know they can depend on every month.
Yeah.
If a customer's coming in buying £100 worth of comic on their pull list, plus, I'd know that fucking customer's name.
Yeah. I've shown you the receipts.
Yeah.
I'll
try to keep it slightly ambiguous.
As a customer, how long would you give them before they should know it?
Well, the trouble is you ain't got much of a choice, have you?
Well, that's the problem. That is the problem in London. Where do you go?
Yeah.
You go to Gosh or you go to where? Forbidden Planet's faceless. Mega City's too far out for me.
Yeah.
To be fair though, Forbidden Planet, I expect the faceless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I kind of, if I want the personal, I'd go into, like, for instance, Gosh in this example. Yeah. If I just want, you want to pull this? Okay, here you go. What's the name?
But what I mean is, what is the rope that you'll give that a store should have before they're like, I mean, they don't even.
I've got a petty internalized system, my friend.
Before they go, oh, Tony, how are you, mate? I think it always, the hint is if they say hello to you by name when you come in the store. All right, Tony, how you doing?
Yeah, it should be like Norm walking into the bar, shouldn't it? In Cheers.
Yeah, with you in a comic book shop. Yeah.
But I have a petty internalized system I'd like to explain to you. So every time I go into a comic, unsurprisingly, Petty Esmond has a petty system.
Yeah.
But other than moaning to you,
if he was a musician, it'd be Tom Petty,
and sending you voice notes that you play to your missus and she giggles. When I was particularly pissed off one time, every time I get a super bad treatment, I drop a couple of books.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Lesson learned. Well,
that's what I do. That's what I do. If I go in there and I get like I think twice in Gosh I've had like a terribly rude reception. like incredibly bad.
Not even neutral.
So you're
Just
Not even
terrible.
neutral,
Yeah.
just rude, just
So-
almost confrontational. After that, I dropped 4 books.
So you'll only have 246 the next week. Is that what
But
I'm saying?
do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
it's still 20 quid to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
If everyone does that, or half the customers do that, that's fucking a lot.
yeah.
So,
That's my terribly petty.
Yeah.
Fair
Cheers
enough.
me up. I mean, the thing is about me is I read every single Marvel and DC comic on the app anyway, and there's not very many Marvel and DC comics that are very good, so it's not hurting me.
Yeah.
I just have to wait a couple of extra months to read it.
I've heard nothing but the absolute fucking pits about that Fire and Ice comic.
Yeah, it's
Is it
terrible.
really-
It's
is
awful.
it really that bad?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
The only good thing about it is it's got Ambush Bug in it, but he's so badly used.
Okay.
God, you sound like you're in a comic book shop.
That's the kind of chats we need.
Yeah.
But that's the cliche, isn't it? I think, unfortunately, that's the cliche that people still hang on to, don't they? They go, "Oh yeah, you see this all the time. Oh, I was a woman. I walked in a comic shop and everyone stared at me." That doesn't happen anymore,
No.
unless there's a particularly bad comic shop in this country that I haven't been in. You do not just get stared in and virtually chased out if you're a female in a comic shop. It just doesn't happen anymore.
That kind of, as far as I'm aware, that's completely changed since it all kind of went mainstream.
Yeah,
It's
completely.
almost ludicrous. I can't say that it never happens because
Yeah, I mean, it's
You could
down,
never
it's
say
down to
that.
the owners and employees of
Yeah.
that particular store, isn't it?
I don't know. I can't think of it anywhere that's like that now.
yes.
But then again, we're also 3 men. So
Yeah,
but then again,
to our lovely female listeners, let us know if you've had a recent experience of that.
But I do
Yeah.
go to comic shops with women. You know, it's happened multiple times.
Yeah.
And I've never, I do know women who go to comic
I
shops
hope to
and
God
buy
it
comics.
doesn't. Yeah, I hope
But
it
apparently
Yeah.
we keep hearing that half the people that read comics are women. But the other half of the time we used to. I don't think I've heard it for a year now or so. But you used to hear about women who just moaned about going in a comic shop and getting stared at. It's just victim status, isn't it? People have a bit of victim status, don't they? But
Indeed.
I hate going
Yeah.
into any shop and being stared at. But
I get
I'm
yeah.
too
People-
fucking
they look me
gorgeous,
up and
that's my
down. They just want a bit of me. Do you know what I mean? That's how it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah.
They want a bit of the
I
Esmond
reckon
when walking. Yeah.
the geezer, the security guard down the local Sainsbury's thinks I'm on the fucking rob all the time. Every time I go there.
Why is it because you keep thieving
Yeah.
stuff?
Just because I keep nicking loads and loads of fucking stuff.
Always putting a whisper bar in your pocket.
Yeah. Oh, nice chocolate
That's usually
bar.
when I'm dashing
Yeah.
out the front with a fucking trolley filled up with Cronenbergs.
Here's one thing. Here's one thing that I'd say I like in a comic book store or just any sort of store really. Like I say, I'm very much in my own world. I'm searching for my own thing. I don't have a local, so I haven't built out that rapport. So it's cool, and I can hear people having their conversations, and certainly the staff are probably having their conversation, etc. I've got my little collection of stuff to buy. I'm in a good mood. I'm in a comic book shop. I've got
Okay, we're role playing again.
15. Well, see what you think of this scenario. I go up to the counter with just say 50 quid's worth of stuff to buy, and
It's about 4 comics, yeah.
yeah.
One action figure.
All digital. And it takes the staff a couple of minutes to finish their conversation. It's almost begrudges them to finish a conversation to serve me. I don't want to be part of that conversation. I think it's cool that I've had this in shops before, and I'm not going to say comic book. Just that general. When staff are having a social, and they kind of sometimes they forget for a moment that someone's there to buy something. It's just a little niggle. Do you know what I mean? Have you ever had that experience when you're like, "Oh, excuse me, I'd like to buy these, please." And
apparently that's the worst thing you've ever said as well.
Yeah.
You mean
Yeah.
they look at you like that's the worst thing that's ever been said to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
How dare you?
I mean, if you have that experience, someone goes, "Oh, sorry, oh yeah, of course," and then they're really nice with you in the interaction. That's fine.
That's lovely. Got no problem with that.
That completely deactivates it. But when they look at you like why have you interrupted my conversation?
They stare at you and there's a stony silence. And
I
you're
think,
like,
I can totally see that this is something that still happens in some shops, and there are people as well who just want to buy their books and go, and I think that can be a negative experience. That's a real negative experience for people, isn't it? When they have that, it's like, God, they looked at me like I was bothering them. You know?
Yes, horrible.
You know, so I mean, I know certainly there's a lot of those stores we've talked about on this show, and we're big supporters of. Just whenever we go in there, they're just the loveliest people, aren't they? And it's always got to be an inviting environment, because it should be, because comics for the longest time felt like no one else was interested in them.
Yeah, there was one comic shop I used to go into that his regular, he had a discount system for his customers. That's something else that a lot of shops don't have, that I think is probably worth doing. And then you had like a special discount around variant covers and stuff like that. And then his big customers, he would actually add something extra to your pull list at Christmas.
Hey, that's lovely. Yeah,
he'd put signings on and invite, stuff like that. And I think that was community building.
Yeah.
You know, and he'd say, "Oh, by the way, we're hoping. By the way, we've got Dave Gibbons in doing a signing next week. Make sure you're here." Stuff like that.
Loyalty.
Yeah. I mean, loyalty. I mean, I'm going to use the term loyalty card now. I'm sure there's stores that, like coffee shops, you buy a trade, get a stamp. You know, have you heard?
Yeah, Gosh used to. No, Orbital used to have that system. Yeah, I don't get a discount. I occasionally get a discount in Gosh, but I'm not sure actually why. I think it's because I'm a creator. But I don't know. I very rarely do. To be fair.
Do you think that's something that's we need to get more comic book stores on to talk about? To be honest, is here, so don't be surprised.
Well, we're talking as the customer here, aren't we? We're talking as experiences of a customer.
But for instance, I would always forget that I've got that card in my bloody wallet whenever I go.
Yeah.
So
you never forget a discount card. You've got a Costa card.
I have not got a Costa card actually.
But you got a Starbucks app.
No. But I do have the Lidl's app.
My favourite one, Gales. I've got a Gales app. Have I told you about my relationship with the ladies in Gales?
No.
I'm not tell this. So I go in there most mornings to have a coffee and read comics and stuff, and they call me Tony Early Man. That's the two ladies who run it.
What, like a Neanderthal, like turn of the century early
man? No, it's just because I think they're both the ladies in there who run it are originally from Hong Kong. They've been over, I think, 5 or 6 years, because we talked to them quite a lot about it.
Yeah.
And they call me Tony Early Man. It's what they call it. Tony Early Man's here. I said, can you stop calling me that? Just Tony. Went, okay, Tony Early Man's here. They think it's fucking hilarious. And I chat to them every morning. I love it. And I've got
that's great.
It's great.
I'm gonna write that down.
You go in there primarily just for that kind of interaction.
I love them. Yeah.
If you go into a shop and they recognise you and they say hello to you, how you doing? Can't beat it.
She's been teaching me a word in Mandarin. Every day, once a week, she gives me a different word to learn.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really nice.
That's great. Yeah,
I like it.
Lovely.
Yeah, I like learning about things like that.
That sort of human interaction, you just can't beat it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Good. Anyway, Vince has definitely got a load of discount cards.
No, not having that.
I can't.
He goes, I think you'll find I've got this coupon.
I lose track of all of that shit. I talk a good game, but I can never, and also I don't want to sign up for a lot of things. You know what I mean?
Every 10th drink is free.
Yeah. Let's go get an email from fucking every shop I've ever bought something from ever.
I was thinking about this the other day. I think I don't read 90% of my emails.
Yeah. I could get a message like your emails are full, and I was like, I've got all the emails from 2022. That's when I just bulk deleted them all.
So we're going to be starting an email newsletter this year, folks.
Yeah.
So,
and a discount card.
Yeah, the idea of getting fucking more emails and stuff, just dread. That's what I've kind of stayed off Substack, because I get another email. So,
mate, you get them all the time. Fuck me.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Listen, because we've got some news coming tomorrow, haven't we? Might have some news.
Man, we've got
got
some things are moving and shaking in the motivation.
Let's not announce too much until.
No, we won't announce anything. We're quite hopeful,
quietly confident.
Yeah,
we don't
until I fucking ruin it tomorrow. Until I ruin it tomorrow during the meeting when I say, "Oh shit, sorry, Vince." Sorry.
Then the line just drops out.
Right, hello. Write that down.
He's not writing down a time. He's just writing down all my misdemeanors.
Yeah. No, I've got a separate book for that.
I was looking up Phantom Zone, like to see if there's any references of it, and there's a few mentions on web pages, no photos. There's a Neil Gaiman interview from 1989. It says the interview with author Neil Gaiman was conducted by two naive 16-year-olds in the back room of Phantom Zone, a comic shop in Croydon, on May 20th, 1989. There you go.
Nice.
That's on the Internet Archive.
Real.
Wow.
Always worth looking up dodgy
The
things that have been
blast from the
deleted.
past.
The
Yeah.
internet has an archive. What a day to be alive.
So that's comic shops put to bed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully not. Hopefully they stay awake and alive and kicking ass.
Which is the point we're making.
Yeah.
Cherish your customers.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, if any comic book
And
shop
you love.
workers and owners are listening to this, there's a good chance we already know how amazing you are. So
Yes.
don't worry about that. If you know of a comic store that could do with a kick up the arse, I'll send Dan and Tony around there. With clipboards. They'll go in with clipboards.
And be vaguely sarcastic to everyone.
I mean, the thing is that at the end of the day, like the retail experience, just in general in 2024, is usually such a nightmarish experience. Yeah.
Well, after everything that's happened, it's changed so much.
Yeah.
It's
and
very
these
different.
are little havens, little dens of hobbies that we love. So I know I certainly get a kick out, and I hope, folks, that this year your comic book stores just go from strength to strength and do well. I mean, obviously these are difficult times, certainly, and the comic book sort of business, medium, just everything in general is ever evolving and changing.
Here's an idea for a comic shop. They have do you know those like curtain doors? They're like a curtain that hangs down and you walk through them.
Yeah.
You have them at the back of every comic shop, and you go through the back. It's like Sodom and Gomorrah in there.
Yeah.
It's just a sexual fantasy world.
For people cosplaying various characters, getting into
boning each other.
Yeah.
You can buy pornography, sex toys.
Please, folks, don't take this as a serious business model.
Yeah.
I've worked it out with my.
How much a percentage of the shop are you giving the nat, Tony?
I'll work that out. Out of 110%, I'll give it.
Okay. That's the staff breakout room's been taken over by that.
I want to put my bag and coat in there. You can't. There's Starfires boning someone in there.
Some poor geezer trying to eat his bacon and egg sandwich. It's last days of Caligula.
I am never. If either of you two start a comic book store, I'm never walking into it.
It's not my shop. My shop's on the up and up.
Yeah.
Is this the sex shop? No, that's Tony's down the road.
Yeah, you can't recognise Dan because of the Darth Vader helmet.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that thing of it? It's kind of like a porn Muppet thing. Is it the Happy Land Murders or something? You know that?
That's not a porn Muppet thing. That's just a shit puppet.
Oh, I love that film. You know, that's basically me in that film. But you know when they go into the sex shop and it's just kicking off everywhere. It's going off everywhere in that shop. That's what I want it to be a bit like.
Okay, I've not seen that film, so
you got to see it, man. You got to see it. It's brilliant.
Okay.
It's one of my top 10 film.
No, oh dear God, why are you on this show?
That's clearly me.
I tell you what. After all of those eloquent points, all of those wonderful things you said, Tony. Ted Sony. You completely blew out of the water with that sort of.
We've hit
I'm a
9
man
o'clock.
of taste.
That's when
we've hit
it goes
9
off.
o'clock. It's that time of the show,
Christ.
gents.
We filibustered that quite well, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Dropped out.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. But do we have any shout-outs this week, gents?
Yes.
Oh, yes, you do.
I've been waiting all year.
Yes.
Here we go. You go first, Dan. Go on.
The Doubletree by Hilton Hotel, Bristol. The 25th and the 26th of May, 2024.
What's happening there, Dan?
Why are you saying it's
10 years Comic-Con. It's back.
Yes.
LawlessComicCon.co.uk. There's a massive guest list. It's not too much. I can't read them out, but I'm not going to. You're going to go to lawlesscomiccon.co.uk. Check out all the great names. And once again, Doubletree by Hilton Hotel, Bristol. Go check that out. 25th and 26th of May.
What's happening?
I started laughing at this.
Yeah.
I know Sue kind of was concerned that she doesn't get enough advertising for these. So I like to fucking set the stall that early. So
every week until May, you'll be getting
every week till May, I'll be saying that.
Good.
Lawless.
You got any more, Dan?
we're still carrying on with January, where we're drawing the Generation X and Generation 13 characters. That's blazing on, and we're posting it up in the Slack group, or if you do hashtag January. Do you want to mention the Penguins news that Al told us about, or
Maybe like ours? Oh, wait, look. Al's bringing it to a close soon. He'll have a
Yeah.
Kickstarter for the final book, which will include the purchase of all the other books, which are brilliant. We've known Al since the inception of the podcast, haven't we?
Mm,
Yeah.
yes.
He's been on the show a couple
Lovely
of
guy.
times. Yeah. And I think we were talking about it on NIA this week, me and Al. I think he's done, I'm going to say, top of my head, 2,700 strips.
It's amazing.
Fucking hell. That's pretty
Absolutely
impressive,
amazing.
isn't it?
Man, I said to him, you've done your time in the trenches with that.
Yeah.
You've really done well.
So when it drops, I think it'll be a couple of weeks. It's going to drop the Kickstarter for the final book. Don't worry, we'll be shouting about it. So, but keep your eyes out for it for a landing page and stuff like that. But I know it's usually a couple of hours by the time it's funded.
Yeah,
Everyone loves it. I love it. It's a great little story. I think I made a comment. I made a comment years ago that it's the best thing for the downstairs loot. The Penguin book, and it still is. But every time I back his Kickstarter, he always sends me a piece of toilet paper as part of my reward. Yeah,
give a shout. It's the NIA this week with the Longbow Hunters.
Thank you, mate.
Great show. Yeah, you and Al on it. I really enjoyed it.
Quite an interesting subject because it deals with the change in comics from, the sort of slightly happy clappy, crazy kids comics through to a darkness that hit. And there's a really interesting and significant moment in that comic that occasionally still causes a bit of outrage and people don't quite understand it. And we sort of talked through the reasoning for it. It's Al came with some great insights. Also, it's a comic not everyone loves, but I really do love it.
I'm gonna have to check it out because I've never read it. It's one of those ones I've always heard about but never actually secured one.
Okay, yeah.
So I think I'm just going to sort my stuff out with that.
He's one of my favorite characters, I think. I don't know why it is. I just have an affinity for archers. I like him and Hawkeye. I like them both. Interesting. Thanks,
I guess
man.
it's the using the skill of the weapon itself, which it does take. You can't just pick up a bow and start using it.
So I used to be an archer. My father used to make longbows and stuff like that, and I used to be an archer as teens into 20s and stuff. And I sort of, do you know what? Do you remember I told you I read those omnibuses, the Green Arrow omnibuses, a couple of Christmases ago? I actually looked at getting another compound bow as well.
Okay,
it's just an expensive hobby to suddenly pick up. I was just pour my money.
I've only had a go at the recurve bow, and it was like that. This is hard work, even hitting the target, let alone getting anywhere near the center of it. So.
Yeah, there's a great book, Zen and the Art of Archery, which I read when I was a kid, which talks about that whole thing that Grell talks about the art of pulling the bow back and stuff like that.
Is that called Kyodo?
I can't remember, man. Yeah.
Something sort of in the distant memory, bringing that up.
I was saying to Simon on the Slack, I'll probably bring a couple of longbows over to Angoulême because the French love the longbow, don't they?
Oh, yes. Been standing across from it many a time.
Yeah. Isn't that where the two-fingered salute comes from?
Yeah, it does.
I think it is, yeah.
So what they would do, when they captured English archers, they would lop off those two fingers so they couldn't fire a bow again. And then that salute, I've still got my two fingers.
Yeah, like an insult.
Arrows. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
So as far as I was aware, that's where it comes from.
Can be informative sometimes.
Yeah. Good stuff.
That's a devastating weapon of war, the fucking English longbow.
Oh, mate, massively. Yeah, real battle winner that was.
One more quick shout out. Joey Oliveira didn't get enough of a shout out for the amount of fucking Kickstarters and work.
Oh, mate, I love Joey. He's
absolutely, yeah. And he's got Moth Hill issues 1 to 4, a Mothman horror comic.
Oh, it's the collection he's kickstarting. Yeah, that funded like super quickly as well. Yeah, but you need to get on it because that's a great comic. Yeah.
So you've got another week basically when you hear this. So go check that out.
I will
fantastic.
say that Afterlight comics are just such a great publisher.
Oh, great.
He's built a really interesting and really sort of loyal fan base, isn't he, around those comics as well, which is good to see.
And like when you see him, because he's always updating on the latest book or project that they're working on, and now usually you see him you can see shelves of like boxes and stuff of like stuff that have got to be sent, that he's sending out or prepared to be sent. It is just really impressive to see like how they've grown year on year with high quality horror content, which
good horror. Yeah, or proper horror as I like to call it. Yeah.
So if that's it,
no, I got some more.
Go on, Tony.
Keith. Al Henderson put me this way. Keith Armour, who is the organizer and establisher of the Capital Sci-Fi Comic Con, which used to be a charity comic convention or sci-fi convention that raised money for a children's hospice in Scotland. He's been recognised in the New Year's Honours list, so good on him.
Amazing.
Well done, mate.
Awesome.
Yeah, for support of the Children's Hospice Association Scotland. So that's good news. Collosive have just released their 52nd Collosive cartography, Be Brave by Becky Bell. Plus they're teasing, if you have a look at their mailer, they're teasing the second issue of Fractures from Wolfgang Crow, which is a favourite of ours. That's coming out soon. I think they're my ones. Yeah, that's my two.
Awesome. So, no pun intended there. So, from all of those things to check out to comic books to check out over the coming weeks. Now, we've got a few we're going to run through, but and my lovely co-hosts have sort of two each. Tony, do you want to kick us off?
Okay, want to be quick because yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, no, we're going to be super.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's, as we were talking about earlier, it's come to that sort of point in the year where we're diving into winter now. The nights are cold. We haven't got Christmas to look forward to. We're all back at work. We're all a bit dreary. I think we needed something that's going to lighten our souls, lift our spirits. Do you think the same? We need that reinvigoration, don't we? Almost like a spiritual reinvigoration at this point of the year. So I've chosen a comic. I've chosen a comic to talk about that. We're going to do that, and it's called Gene Simmons' Dominatrix.
I see.
Yeah. Story by Gene Simmons, the rock star. Written by Holly Interlandi. Pencils by S.L. Gallant. Inks by Maria Keane. Colours by Michael Woods. Letters by Jacob Baskill. Covers, get this, Jim Ballant. Well, I think it's been a bit poorly this week, actually, isn't he?
Okay.
Emilio Laso and my favourite, Joseph Michael Linsner. So that's cool. Published by Opus Comics and in combination with something called Simmons Comics.
I'm going to say, I'm just going to... I don't know too much about this comic, but I'm going to just go out on a limb here with that name of creators. I think this is about an attractive female woman.
You might be right. Yeah, yeah. They're quite well known for drawing sexy ladies, aren't they? Let's face it. Yeah. So Opus Comics are co-publishing it with Simmons Comics. You've got to laugh at Gene Simmons Comic Company, the logo for which is just a bag of dollars. I think he's got the wrong industry there, my friend. Yeah. It was part of my Global Comics reading project. I came across this. I mean, genuinely, just ignore the title. This is actually a well-executed, fun, sex horror superhero mashup. Put it that way. So what happens? So it's not super deep or anything like that. There's no massive, deep meaning to this one. And please ignore the name of the central character, because I'm sure that this is probably an invention of Gene's, because she is called Dominique Stern.
Okay.
So she's called Dom Stern. Yeah. As we all know, men are idiots, aren't they? Well, I think we all know that.
Yeah, completely.
Some even like to pay to get a kicking off a lady. To be fair, I know a couple of pubs in Catford where you could get that for free.
Just get married. It's easier.
Mother-in-law jokes coming in a minute.
Yeah.
So Dominique has a new anonymous client. She's in full gear. And he turns up, strips off. She gets him on the floor and she's jamming the heel of a sexy red boot. She's got like a mask with a big ponytail sticking out the top of it. And she's jamming the heel of her sexy boot into his back. When he says to her he wants to make a confession to her, she says, this is a bit strange. I'm not sure what's going on here. I've never really had a confession before. When suddenly the front door explodes. And this squad of... They almost look like the same person... pale-faced, no features, dressed in a grey suit with a hat on and a tie. They burst. The door explodes and they burst through. And the naked man gets up off the floor and he's fighting them and he's saying to her, "Get out! You have to get away." And he gives her this bag, this sort of holdall. So she grabs it. She's still in full gear, carrying a whip, and she lands in the alleyway. And tries to escape, but the men, I think from the sounds of things, have defeated the naked bloke, and jumped out the window after her because she's got this holdall. So she sits on the floor and she thinks, right, I'm going to look in this bag quickly while they're all sort of running towards me. So she takes one of it's just a bag full of pills in little bottles. So she takes one of them, and of course it gives her super strength. And obviously, because it's superhero dominatrix, she smashes the shit out of all these men. It's like some of them to almost like a bloody pulp, and she escapes. But as she escapes, she notices that there's what she thinks is a B written on the back of their necks, or tattooed on the back of their necks. Now, if you look at a B, it could also, to me, this looks like a 13. See what I'm saying? So the three
Okay.
is that, yeah.
Yeah.
So she's saying it's a B, and I'm thinking that's a 13. There's something going on here. So you begin to think that. And that's just kind of the first few pages. She ends up traveling. The first two issues of this four-issue miniseries are now on Global Comics. You can find them there. So I read them both, but they're really good. It turns into a big investigation. She turns into a bit of a sort of superhero, almost like a pulpy character, dressed as the Dominatrix, and she uses the whip to climb up the side of buildings when she's taken these tablets and stuff like that. And it's genuinely just much better than you'd think. Cracking covers, great art. I'm gonna say the art reminds me a bit of someone like maybe Trevor Hairsine or Doug Braithwaite. If you remember them.
Yeah.
Trevor Hairsine did that Class War. Doug Braithwaite's done
Yes.
some Valiant stuff like that and other stuff. Very well laid out. The writer and the artist have a good relationship. You can tell the beats, everything leads into the next panel pretty well. It's a good read. I had a little dig into Opus Comics because they're a company that I thought, oh, I've definitely seen this company before, and they're the people who are doing the Frazetta themed books. I don't know if you've seen it. There's a Death Dealer comic.
Right. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I read that. There's the trade of that is on Global Comics, and there's also a Mothman book which I've just started reading, which seems pretty good. Yeah, I suppose you got to laugh, haven't you? Because this is kind of a book that 20 years ago would have just been an also ran on the shelves in a comic shop, wouldn't it? But
Yeah.
today, because it's well executed, it's not particularly deep. It's just a fun adventure story. I'm not reading it for a sort of titillation. There's no nudity in it that I can
No.
see. It's just a well-made comic, and I enjoyed it. And that's all I need out of a comic these days, to be fair. I don't like to be told about stuff I just like to be able to read and have fun. And yeah, I've read the first two issues, enjoyed them. So I'm just waiting for them. You can, on Global Comics, you can tag, so you can follow a title and they email you when the new one comes out. It's quite a good little system. So I've tagged the issue, and I've tagged the company as well for any releases from the company. And as soon as it comes out, you get an email and you can go in there and read it. But yeah, Gene Simmons, Dominatrix, strangely better than you would think.
Gene's a creator that needs the money.
He does, yeah. It's yeah, pretty good. There you go. It's my first
His
one.
trouble. His son got in trouble years ago. I remember that for pirating a manga. Or
Oh, right.
do you remember? Do you remember that story, or you heard of that story? He had his own manga coming out, and basically he had lifted loads of stuff out of Bleach, and he kind
Oh,
of got
right.
pulled out in it, and then he just withdrew it all and just went. I don't know what he's done since, but
Oh, right. I didn't know about that.
bit
Okay.
bit silly to copy the one of the most popular manga series in the world and try and
Yeah.
pass the artwork off as your own. But there you go.
Who's the actor who did the Transformers movie and Lawless, and he was in the Indiana Jones movie?
Shia
Shia
LaBeouf.
LaBeouf. Did you see he made that short movie and it was clearly a Klaus comic?
No,
You ever
no,
seen that?
I
Yeah.
did hear about it. I've not seen that.
Yeah, he got dunked on that a bit, I think. Yeah, similar sort of thing.
Just passing off someone else's ideas as yours. A bit
There you
bit
go.
naughty.
Hollywood for you, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My first one. I've
Yeah.
got up to speed on Void Rivals, and that is it's such a fun comic to read. It's absolutely just belt and braces, sort of like good comic. Is it going to turn the world upside down or set the industry on fire? No, but is it absolutely solid and really fun to read? Yes. It's yeah, great. I'm really enjoying it. So go get on that series if you haven't already. I know we spoke about it in our best of the year, but I'm really enjoying it. The one I'm going to talk about today is Duke issue 1.
Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah.
So this came out a couple of weeks ago, I think, but
Yeah.
I got it on digital, and you might not know this. It's set in the Energon universe.
No,
I've not heard of that.
What's the only
Yeah, what's the-
universe?
Well, it's a tie-in where Kirkman's kind of like they're doing like G.I. Joe and Transformers and Void Rivals are all part of the same sort of universe. And this keys off of was it Transformers issue 2 where the humans kind of like send over a jet fighter and Starscream takes it out, smushes the pilot, and the co-pilot is Duke, and that sequence pops up in this book. And the story starts off with basically saying how Duke was an absolutely like A-star, amazing soldier, great at everything he does, charismatic, on the ball, did what he was told. And then after he's had this incident in this jet, it's kind of fucked him up. He's kind of got a bit of PTSD from it, and also no one believes him that that's what happened. Like uh,
Okay.
a robot, a jet transformed into a robot, and then killed this guy that you like in front of you. We don't believe you. And he's saying, well, what about all the black box stuff? And it's like, it's all been classified. They won't talk about it. So he kind of gets mugged off and just, oh, fuck this, and kind of goes. And it cuts to like a bit later, and he's kind of like fallen afoul and doesn't really know what to do with his life. And on the off chance he hears about like a meeting about like these robots, and he turns up and it's full of kooks. But there's one lady who's saying, oh, I know you are, and go into a back room and essentially tells him, no, 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 there's something to this, and go here and we'll be able to do something about it. I won't spoil what happens next, but it spins off with Duke kind of saying, I wasn't fucking mental. I was right all along, and
Right.
I'm gonna show them that I'm right, and I'm gonna fucking kill that robot that killed my mate. So it's a kind of a bit of a revenge story in the making, and it's got that old a soldier who's kind of a real hard ass, who's kind of a bit washed up,
Yeah,
a
that trope we
disillusioned.
love.
Yeah, and
Mm.
then he's like, oh, actually, no, I've got a direction now, and I'm gonna get on it. And it's really nice. I didn't realize where the story was going to go, because I thought, are they going to carry directly on from the what happened in Transformers? And obviously they are. So this is written by Joshua Williamson, art by Tom Riley, Jordi Belair on colors, and Russ Wooten on letters. There's so many fucking covers for this thing. There's loads. Got one,
Right.
two, three, four, five, six, seven, at least eight, nine covers. I know they're doing
Yeah,
a
they
fair
did.
bit of money of them.
Yeah.
Like I said the other week, alternate covers and variants are not my thing. If they're yours, fine. That's great. Whatever. I did look at the price on eBay, because I forgot to fucking buy this one. I was gonna try and get this as an issue one, and the first one with the generic covers like going for £100. So I was like, okay,
Okay.
maybe I'll just get it in a trade. So yeah, not to speak of all the other fucking variants. There's absolutely loads. But I really enjoyed this. If you kind of like the Transformers and you're liking uh, Void Rivals, go check this out, because yeah, I reckon you'll enjoy it just as much.
Cool.
Nice. My recommendation for this week, my issue one, is one from Boom. Issue one, written by Kyle Starks, illustrated by Fran Galan, lettered by Pat Brousseau. It's got variant covers by Erica Henderson, Fran Galan, Annie Wu, Jay Lee, and June Chung. This is Pine and Merrimac, issue one. Anyone who's listened to this show will know that we've talked about Kyle Starks quite a few times on the show.
Yeah, and had him on.
Yeah,
Had him on back in the day. For my money, just one of the best writers in comics at the moment.
love his stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah,
No,
Yeah.
I've got it on me for you to get that book you recommended, Tony, the Peacemaker one.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Really like that. Yeah.
and he's still making awesome sort of standalone little stories, adventures, mysteries. He does love a mystery. Obviously, the Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton was a good example of that kind of sort of snappy dialogue and interesting action. And Pine and Merrimac, which is an interesting name for this book, feels like Kyle Starks and an absolutely amazing artist to watch out for. Like a TV show. It almost feels like a great TV show, this one. But what is it about? Well, on the corner of Pine and Merrimac sits a small, unassuming town. Just a simple place, simple people, and one horrifying secret that could change everything. After a lifetime of witnessing the worst that humanity has to offer, former homicide detective Linnea Kent has decided to put all that behind her. Alongside her husband, a former professional MMA fighter, and the unofficial brawn to her brains, she's moved far from a busy city to open up a quiet little detective agency. The synopsis is ever so long on this one. I don't know why, but basically the setup is, and within the first 6 pages, one of the things I love about this, one is absolutely gorgeous, from the color palettes to the character acting. When I talked to the guys about it just before we start recording, it feels very much like one of those Europe comics discoveries that we used to have back in the
Johnny
day.
Cannon recommended this to me this week, and I hadn't got around to it yet. But you showing me the art in that is really, Yeah, pushing me to read it.
Everything,
Yeah.
like the palettes on it, are just absolutely gorgeous. But it's sort of what the creators do in this. They take the first, literally 4-5 pages, if that, to set up the characters that you're going to be following, like this husband and wife team, who are just a couple that, you know, obviously one of them's a badass detective and the other one's a fucking badass MMA fighter, but they've almost sort of semi-retired, and they're just in a small sleepy town. And in fact, their detective agency, there's no, as she says in the opening, which is like from her narration, which her narration has that wonderful, it's almost got that detective sheen to it, or like you have with great sort of pulpy sort of voiceovers, but with a little edge, like an Ennis sort of edge to it. So immediately these feel like real people. The dialogue is just snappy and just brilliant. But the detective agency, no murders, no missing people, just mostly infidelity cases and insurance fraud. That's what she wanted, because she used to be a homicide detective, and it was literally, she hated it because of everything that she saw and she's experienced. It kind of, the way the book sort of reads, you can tell she's probably very good at the job. It was just the nature of that job was just no. And you learn that she, straight from the off, it starts off with her and her sister went missing when they were kids, and then her sister's body was found. You know, there was a big case, and her sister's body was found. And it sort of, that spurred her into becoming a detective and wanting to try to find the answers to cases like that. And she's since sort of moved on. But then there's a case that comes in later in the book, which means that they take on a missing persons case. So immediately you've got this wonderful mystery. The first issue is pretty much just setting up the tone, the atmosphere. You immediately, I just love it when these books are structured in a way where it gets all the points across in a really concise. There is, like, someone wants them to hire them for a job, and that's a brilliant scene of seeing how good she is as a detective. And then later on in the book, you see evidence of her husband is just an absolute just killer, if you know what I mean. He's a complete badass. In fact, he calls himself there's a bunch of bikers in a bar, and there's loads of them, of course, and he goes, and a bike goes up and said, "Who the fuck do you think you are? You can call me the preschool teacher." Preschool teacher? Yeah, because I'm going to teach you all a little lesson, and I'm going to put you down for a nap. And he just fucking just absolute. And that's another thing. The next couple of pages are just action of seeing someone who knows how to handle themselves absolutely handle themselves. And then there's a to be continued that immediate. I mean, by this, I was already sold on it. I'm already going to get the next issue. I'm in for this mystery, because I think the mystery is going to reveal itself to be something big. You know, it's not just a small case. I think this is, you know, twists on twists on twists. I think we're going to get that kind of thing. But there was a lovely bit of prose from Kyle in the back. And I'm just going to read a couple of lines out, because I just thought this is... Because one of the things I liked about this book was you really like the main couple. They're not. There's no cynicism to it. They're just two people that met. They're a married couple that just genuinely like being around each other. They started a business, you know. It's not to say like they're completely perfect. They're people. They're real people. And he says, one of the best, most beautiful, marvellous things in the world is a happy couple. I don't believe there's anything more life-affirming than to see two people who are just so wonderfully and seamlessly interwoven with each other. It's like joy poetry. It's hypnotic. Pop culture has chosen to rarely highlight this magnificent sight. In sitcoms, the couple is always either antagonistic or cruel. Rom-coms are always about the precursor to the long-term relationship. And dramas don't work unless there's some drama, obviously. And so he's essentially put this good couple, and he's put them in... I think this is going to be good people in a dark circumstance, and seeing how that plays out. This is already... That's hit. It's hit one of the... really surprising, actually. The cover itself is kind of the one I got, the digital one. It's beautiful. It's one of the Galan covers, so you get like an evidence of the artwork. But it's almost too subtle in its way. I think some people might scroll past it.
Okay.
I don't know what the variants are like. But for this sort of book, it's not something where I'll be interested. I mean, the second issue immediately is quite a dramatic cover for the issue 2, because it's two of them on a boat, clearly that sort of harbour boat. It seems like a classic scene from a sort of crime investigation. But just in case you were scrolling past it, or just in case you pass it on the shelf, go back and open it up. As soon as you open it up, the artwork will make you spend your money. The dialogue and just the writing will keep you there, and I think I'm in for the haul. This real, and I say this normally. I buy like my issues and then I'm just burn through them. This one sat there for a couple of days. I didn't really have time to read things immediately, but there was also I need to get around to reading that one. And as soon as I started reading it, I was like, why didn't I read this immediately? Have you ever had that when you've had something on the to read pile, and as soon as you open it, you just think,
always,
I just feel like an idiot. Why wasn't this the first book I read? So yeah, Pine and Merrimac, put that on your pull lists if you got them, because Starks, for me, I think this is going to be a very interesting year for Carl Starks. I think he's absolutely smashing it across the board with lots of different. Tony, you said he's doing loads of stuff at the moment.
Yeah, man, he's so busy. Yeah, I know. The Peacemaker thing was just one of my favourite books last year. Easy. Yeah. So we know and love seeing like these indie creators. We know how good they are, and it's great to see them. See the fruits of labour from different publishers. But I like that he can balance books like Peacemaker with these individual stories that he clearly cares about. And the creative team clearly care about this. Well, the only problem is he's not drawing them that many, is he? He's mostly writing comics, which I'm cool with. But it'd be nice to see his art as well.
Yeah, I'd like to see maybe like a couple of years in the future, just another one of his crazy off the wall, over the top,
like
80th century.
Yeah.
Was it Kill 'Em All? Wasn't that what it was?
Yeah, that was one of them.
That was a great one.
Sex Castle. Yeah,
Sex Castle. Yes. Yeah.
Sarah recommended me Sex Castle. I think she might even bought it for me.
Oh, nice.
That's great. Yeah.
Great book.
Fantastic book.
So that's my one. Tony, what's your other one?
My second one is something called Graffiti Fish. I saw this briefly on Instagram and ordered it from Gwenny, Gweni, Gwenny Press, which I think is Mal Earl's imprint. I think Mal Earl is the creator of it. I've enjoyed Mal's work since I saw it in a 77 book a few years ago. Really interesting style, and I bought it immediately. It's A5, full colour, 24 pages, and only £4.50. There you go. Let that be a lesson to you, everyone. That's a good price.
Yeah, it's great price.
You can find him at Mal, Malearl, Mal Earl Art, or just Mal Earl on Instagram. But it's an exercise in form, shape, and color for me. This book, it really is. It's an absolutely. I've sent you some images on the WhatsApp just now, and I also showed you it before we started, didn't I, guys? It's a really beautiful thing to look at. I find his style so interesting that I've created quite a complicated chart to try and verbalize how I feel about his art. I'm going to talk you through it. This is called Graffiti Fish, so there is obviously the graffiti influences in it. I think most specifically in the text that's used on the title of the book and elsewhere. There's maybe some Moebius influences. I'm certainly feeling it in one of the stories, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. There's also some Brendan McCarthy, I think, in this. I don't know what you guys think. From his sort of Skin period, that sort of level of artistry. When I look at it, also the last inside page I just sent you the image of on the WhatsApp.
Lovely.
Yeah, lovely, isn't it? I'm feeling some Kevin O'Neill on that, guys. I don't know what you think. There's some Nemesis-esque.
I'd say that. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
That's called The Last Dream. He uses style in different ways. He uses colour certainly in different ways, and there's an absolutely excellent sense of colour in it. I'm going to say there's also a bit of Marfood in there somewhere. Food One. There's also a bit of that going on there somewhere. And also add into that mix, not on all of them, but certainly on the cover and elsewhere, there's some psychedelia use. There's the color use that you might see on maybe a 1971 Hendrix poster, something like that, gig poster. That's how I feel about it. So put that into your mental mix. It's a difficult thing being on a audio podcast for a visual medium, but hopefully that's helped. It's also a piece in what Mal is calling a jigsaw project, and you get a little insight into what he's doing with this. And this is comics, prints, poetry, fetish, horror, and more, all showcasing the artists who people this artist, and people should be talking about this artist. I think in the small press, I don't see him talked about enough. I think he is definitely a figure that he's also a member of the Slack as of this week. There you go. So hello to Mal. What is this? It's a short collection of stories, some linked by style and environment, and some just standalones. Mal has described it as guerrilla-style pieces of self-expression, so I can see what he means by that. Here's a couple of the stories. The first story is called Underground. A man or a puppet, it's hard to tell whether he's a man dressed as a puppet or just a puppet, is confronted by a round-faced bull creature. This is dedicated to Crazy Cat creator, cartoonist George Herriman. Jigsaw and the Grove, which are two stories that are stylistically very similar, done in that limited palette thing, which I quite like on occasion: white, black, grey, and red. It's an alien landscape with a narration, quite an introspective narration over the top of it, and it speaks to the overarching Jigsaw theme that we hear about elsewhere in the book. There's a little nod to Mobius in this. There's a character on a flying creature, which for me was a little French grin at the reader, I'm going to say on that one. Graffiti Fish is the titular strip in it, and again Mal uses a limited palette on this, and I think some of the designs on that are definitely some of my favourite stuff. They remind me of the more outlandish and attempts made by 2000 AD, etc. It's got a sort of sci-fi character. There's these goggled, long-necked men, I'd say question mark next to that. Police, I'd say question mark next to that. Clones maybe, and they're patrolling silently in a future city, and they're outraged by graffiti that they see on the wall. It's got all good cyberpunk should be strange. It should take you out of the norm. It's not just a science fiction street colored in differently, with a lot of lights. It should be something that's bizarre and strange, and there has to have an idea behind it, and this certainly does. And the message of this is really a rebels versus authoritarian regimes. Really interesting, but done with a genuine visual instinct and a superb grasp of kind of cackling movement almost in it between panels, guiding, not really shouting at the reader what's going on, but you get a sense of it. There's a real mood to it. I really liked it. And then the last one in there is called The Last Dream, which is the one I sent you, and it's a real alien ballet of a beautiful art scene. There's a lean fluidity to the characters and a very poignant use of narration and quoted speech within the structure of the story. There's in a very wider term, a Nemesis-esque quality to the story, which I really liked. Outstanding, genuinely. I was reading this morning whilst having a coffee in the little coffee shop that I go to. Yes, it's called Gale's. And I was like, I actually had that moment where I thought, finally, something that's just really grabbed me in the small press world this month. And first review of 2024, really, that I've written in 2024. And really lovely stuff. And it's great to have a talent like Mal on the Slack as well. So there you go. Graffiti Fish. Yeah. You can go to malearl.bigcartel.com and find it, or you can go to malearl.com and it links from there anyway. And there's an explanation on there about this sort of jigsaw project he's doing. It's called Jigsaw Project. So go and have a look at that as well. There you go. That's my second one.
Nice. Seeing some of his work in the Slack is fucking awesome. He's a fantastic artist.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
And before we sign off, just a quick shout out: The Hunger and the Dusk, issue 5.
Oh yeah, we loved it.
Yeah, you guys have read this. I haven't read this yet.
Yeah. We'll probably talk about it a bit more when Dan.
This is another one that we talk about as we read it, isn't it? It's another one that gets us and we read about and talk about it and grabs us, and that's what it should be, guys. That's how comics should be, in it. Yeah. We should be in the the playground talking about it, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
And that's what we do in books like that.
A great story that by the end of it, you're thinking, where does it go from here?
I think is it taking a few months off after 6? Is that right?
I think so. It makes sense that like a
Yeah.
6-issue arc is kind of standard, isn't it, these days?
I'm going to double dip with the trade on that, I think.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's going to make some beautiful trades. And this has made for a fun show. We hope you've enjoyed our ramble, our rant. Of course, get involved with the conversation. Let us know if we're mad. Spoilers, we are mad about how we
we're a bit angry earlier as well.
How we would lay out our comic book store, and of course, let us know about the comic book stores that you think deserve more of a shout out. Because we obviously shout out the ones we know and we love, but we're always on the lookout for more great stores to shout out and doing the good work. And we hope you all do great over the year, and we might even talk to a few of you.
Yeah,
even more as the year goes
exciting
on.
times next week.
Indeed. We've got some fun shows coming up over this year. Plenty of new creators, new books, and lots more cool stuff to talk about. But if there was anything on this show you want us to discuss more, maybe you want us to shut up about, no, we don't want to hear any negative PR press because we're very fragile. But if you have any sort of charity initiatives, any comics you want us to know about, then there's several different ways you can get in touch with us. You can email us awesomecomicspod@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, where we're at the Awesome Pod, and on the Instagram, Tony, we're at Awesome Comics Pod.
Yeah.
On Instagram. So follow us on there because we'll be posting up like covers and trying to get more people to listen to this nonsense so we can get the word out about the comics that we talk about, and which you obviously know because you listen to us either on the website awesomecomics.podbean.com. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, leave a nice review, helps get the word out about the show and the algorithms and stuff. Likewise, if like on Spotify, leave us a nice review there, or just a 5-star rating. We're only asking for 100% 5 stars, of course. No, I'm only joking. We just appreciate that you listen to the show at all, whether it was on Amazon, Stitcher, Podnose, Podknife. What other networks are we on, Tony?
Well, in the spirit of being the new year,
oh god,
I'd like to find that the Pod Network. I was doing a poo on New Year's Eve at 11:59, and it lasted for 2 minutes. Same shit, different year.
Sometimes you just got to let them.
I really like that.
No. It's because of people like you that this keeps happening, Dan.
I just do it to make Dan laugh.
Yeah.
I did kind of throw, not a grenade, but like a fishing line into our little ACP chat group with Tom, didn't I? ACB and the Witch.
Oh, yeah. I was so pleased that I ignored that.
I thought Tony might bite, but I think he might lay off, and he did. And didn't feel quite right tricking Tom, but
you'll continue to do it.
What kind of mystical creature is this?
Yeah, it was a dragon.
Dragon D's nuts across your face.
I didn't. Do you know what? I wanted to act like I was above it, but I wasn't. I laughed just like everyone else. And we hope you laughed, enjoyed, thought about the comics that you're going to read, or perhaps rediscover, or go into your comic book store and say hello to the people that work there because they're doing good work.
I've got to try and grab a few more small press and indie stuff because I've been focusing mainly on like the bigger ones recently. But that may change.
You might have an opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Big news. Potentially
news.
Let's not just announce too much. We'll just announce that. Join us next week for more great comic book chat. Yeah. Wherever you are in the world, we hope you're doing happy, healthy, having a good new start to the 2024, and hope you've already read a plethora of brilliant comics that you love and you've recommended to people to check out, because that's it. Just pay it forward. I think that's how comics stays alive these days. And we will endeavour to do so. So from Dan, Tony, Early Man, and myself, have a brilliant week. Read loads of comics. Keep making those comics that we're going to be talking about this year. And as always, what should they do, chaps?
Stay awesome.
Stay awesome.
See you next week, everyone.
See ya.
See ya.